If I could please have everyone take your seats. It's, according to the official clock, it is 6 o'clock. It is time for our city council meeting, June 24th, 2024. If we could please have Pastor Todd Doran, am I saying that correctly? He is with the Faith Baptist Church. If you'd like to come up to the podium and lead us in prayer, we sure would appreciate it.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for life. We thank you for the wonderful city in which we live. We ask that you continue to bestow your blessings upon our great city. Father, tonight we do want to lift up the residents of Fordyce to you. Lord, the citizens and the families that have been impacted by this tragic shooting. Lord, just remember those that are wounded and the families that lost life. Father, we pray for your healing and grace upon that city. Father, we thank you for our council members and our mayor. We ask that you'll give them wisdom and strength as they deliberate tonight. We pray that the decisions that are made will bring you honor and glory. Be with our firefighters, our police officers, our EMTs, Lord, our hospitals, all those that put their lives on the line every day. We ask that you will continue to protect them, and we give you all the honor and glory, for it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Brooks.
Here.
Harmon.
Here.
Lilly.
Here.
Sanders.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Broderick.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Wade.
Here.
You all received the minutes of the regular meeting on May 20th, 2024 as transcribed. Are there any changes? If there
Move for
being none,
adoption. Second.
we have a motion by Councilmember Brooks and a second by Councilmember Williams. Roll call, please.
Williams.
Aye.
Broderick.
Abstain.
Brooks.
Aye.
Lilly.
Aye.
Wade.
Aye.
Harmon.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
You all received a copy of the May financials. Are there any questions? There being none, we'll move on to committees and/or commissions. First up, we've got Advertising and Promotion Commissions. Chairman Councilmember Brooks.
We did meet in the first Wednesday in June. The minutes are in your package. The main subject that we've been talking about has been the Trail of Lights. If anyone has any questions on that, I'll be happy to answer. The subject was broached about the expenses the city pays versus what we make in donations, and the city has to pay for the insurance, of course, for the vehicles, the police officers. There's money spent for the Parks Department for their labor, and so there's a lot of money that is spent basically for everything that's done. However, it is a service to our community and to communities that surround us, and it does bring in a lot of people in. But that all being said, it looks like it costs about $10.14 per car for cars to go through. So anyway, that's if we leave the displays up or take them down. It's $8.18 per car if we leave them up. So anyway, the calculations are all in the minutes if you want to read all the calculations. So
Ms. Brooks, may I ask a question? I apologize for not asking in advance, but when you started going over that, it made me think, is this the first year we've ever done this kind of a breakdown?
Yes, ma'am.
it is. It was one of our commissioners asked that the calculation be done, and it was the calculation was made based on that commissioner's request.
So Okay, so we don't have, historically, we've had the Trail of Lights for 20 years, is that correct, Mr. Harmon?
Problem.
Probably.
Diana, I'm calling on you tonight again.
Is that a good guess, Miss Diana?
Approximately?
22 years
Within,
we've had
dang,
12
about 20
lights.
is a good guess. Thank you, Ms. Diana. So we don't know historically if this is a good, if that's a good price or not. So I don't want to make any judgment about those figures, is what I'm trying to say, because we don't see
No,
what's
we don't want to
happened.
make any judgment about the figures, but the trail's gotten bigger, so.
Most definitely, every
As the
year.
trail's gotten bigger, of course, the expenses have probably gone up because we've had more displays to take up and put down and that type of thing, so.
Well, I know at the municipal league meeting last week, 2 weeks ago now, I had several city council people from other surrounding cities come up to say that's still the finest event they bring their families to, was our Trail of Lights.
Well, I'm
So,
glad that we have people saying that to us, so it
Yes.
makes me feel good.
I don't think that there's, I mean, I have not gotten anybody saying that we shouldn't have the Trail of Lights.
Okay.
It's not that. I think what we were talking about is maybe we could look to try to brainstorm and find ways to make things more efficient and, you know, for the future.
And I kinda thought
And I
that's-
think that was it.
And when you look at those expenses, one thing I discussed at the meeting, remember that the Parks and Rec number, Parks and Rec salary number, doesn't disappear if we don't do the Trail of Lights, because that is there regardless.
Exactly.
So that we're just shifting it from regular Parks and Rec work to Trail of Light work. But that number would be there regardless. That would be
great
an
point,
expense.
Charlie. Great point.
I will say, though, I did talk to Colleen, it is still considered to be an expense. If you're taking employees that can now not do the work of the city and have to be dedicated to do the work of A&P, and the city's paying salary, benefits, and so forth, it is still an expense. But once again, it's a wonderful thing, it's a wonderful service. We did this evaluation because we were asked to present the numbers. We had good numbers, we knew going back 3 years. So that's what you've got, and I think going forward, let's all work together to try to figure out, and certainly if y'all have any ideas, any
Yeah,
input.
please contact me if you have any ideas. If there's anybody out there that wants the numbers are available to anybody that wants the numbers. I just don't want to sit here and go through all the numbers with everybody, but the numbers are available to anybody who wants the numbers. We're not going to meet in July. We never meet in July, so we will meet in August. If you would like to attend, it is the first Wednesday in August, right here at 4 o'clock. Anyone else have any questions or comments? All right, thank you.
Moving on, Parks and Recreation Committee, we have Chairman Councilmember Harmon. Floor is yours.
We did not meet in June. We didn't have any business for the agenda. We will meet in July, if even just to go over updates on current projects. That'll be the second Monday of the month at 6 o'clock at the Bill Harmon, here in this room. So I'm still habit of saying Bill Harmon Recreation, but here in this room, second Monday at 6 o'clock. We do, however, have 2 resolutions on the agenda.
Okay. First up, we have a resolution approving the contracts for roof repairs to the clubhouse at the Greens and the cart storage buildings, the Greens of North Hills.
At your space, you've got a handout with the bid numbers for both the replacement of the roof building and the cart building, and for the, one of them, they both say cart building. The one that's, are these both for the cart building? Let me see.
No. If you, yeah, there's a
second one is
considerable
what?
difference in
Yeah, the
cost when
second
you
one-
look at the second
The
page.
second one is for the is for the clubhouse
Yes.
building. And the first one is for the cart building.
And I had the question come up in terms of why was this not in the budget? We were still trying to get FEMA money and everything else. These buildings were damaged during the 2 weather events. And certainly these are, the clubhouse, that is not a normal roof. It's
a weird
it's a
roof.
very, yes, it's a very unique,
Undulating, I think you would call it.
yes.
I
And
think someone was a hippie when they built that roof.
I don't know, but it.
No, it's Art Deco. That's not a
But
hippie.
same difference.
It's historic, whatever it is,
Yes, it
okay?
is.
It's historic. But anyway, it needs to be fixed. They both need to be fixed. And so put it out to bid, and staff feels very comfortable with the capabilities of the winning bidders.
I will say that I called staff today regarding, because the math didn't add up. And there was, Colleen said, oh, tax is in there. So all that, those are the bid prices, but then they have to charge a tax, and that tax amount takes it up considerably. So it's another $15,000, $20,000 in tax.
So did we have replacement insurance, or what's the difference? Why do we owe so much more than what we received payment for?
Right, so we do have insurance through Municipal League. And it's kind of like a lot of people experience during the tornadoes and so forth, where, you know, you have depreciation and those type of things that go into it. You never get the full replacement cost. Is Colleen here?
Yes?
Yeah, she would be the best one. She's our expert when it comes to these things.
The number cruncher.
So with both of these roofs, so there was obviously the tornado was the first event, and that, which is the cart barn or building, which has funding from that, some funding from FEMA and also insurance. The clubhouse was damaged more from the straight-lined wind event, and that was the insurance proceeds related to that. And like the mayor said, related to depreciation costs. But there are instances where once the repair is completed and we show proof of the repair, that sometimes we're able to then get additional funds from insurance because now the value has increased. And so they kind of revalue that. But we don't always know what that amount will be on the front end. But these are the amounts listed in the resolution is the amount that we've received on both of those claims
You say
from Municipal League.
You don't know what that would be on the front end?
That I don't have the numbers right now of what,
Because an insurance adjuster is supposed to place that amount in escrow for you so that you know exactly what you'll get in the event once the repairs are made. In other words, they're supposed to say, this roof is worth $100,000, but I'm going to depreciate it $75,000, and I'm going to give you 25 now, and I'm putting the other 75 in escrow, and that's all supposed to be communicated to you at the time that the claim is worked out by the claims adjuster. And you're saying that Municipal League doesn't work our claims that way?
not, I mean, to my knowledge, not with all of the claims. You know, with the information that they give us, they don't hold a certain amount aside.
Interesting. That may be worth a call to the Municipal League.
And certainly the Municipal League has dealt with
Lots of cities.
Wynn, North Little Rock, Jacksonville, us, yes. So, I mean, there's,
The other thing I asked Colleen, and just to share with the whole group, when we're saying we're going to have $174,000, and then we say, well, but there's $112,000 in insurance that's already been paid to us, but that was paid in 2023, so it's not in this year's budget. It's sitting there in reserve. And I'm wondering if for future references, we should not have that, when you get an insurance claim that's been paid, I think you should have a line item that says an insurance claim, so that doesn't appear like we're paying it, and then what happened to the insurance money? Am I making sense?
Right, and so we did budget the amount that we received in insurance proceeds in '23 into the
General
Department 5, which is the building maintenance. However, the amount that we've received in '23 was not, you know, the total amount received is not up to the total that we're going to have to pay
To repair it.
this year for roof repairs. And because we have, Department 5 is allocated towards the City Hall Municipal Complex, so this building, City Hall, Barbara Collier Senior Center, and we have a few repair items on that list. The plan with this resolution was because these were parks facilities at North Hills to have this budget adjustment, knowing that we have bids that are coming out for these facilities, and we'll use that amount in the budget to go towards those repairs this year.
So did we receive insurance money and
Yes.
it got absorbed and we've already spent it or allocated it to something that wasn't roof repair, but it was something else in Department 5?
So we received insurance proceeds for multiple roof repairs across the city, and it's been allocated in one pool in Department 5. That money has not been used yet, but the total number of roof repairs that will need to be done across the city will exceed the total amount of insurance that we've received to date,
Weren't there about 9 different facilities that had damage?
at least, yes.
I thought-
But by varying amounts. Like, for example, we've received $500 to repair a few shingles, whereas, in other areas it was more.
You receive one lump sum and a breakdown. It's not like this is the amount for this.
Sure, I misunderstood. When you said we received it in '23 and then we put it in the budget, but then we had other repairs, maintenance repairs, I just want to make sure that it didn't go in there and then it went to some other kind of repair and now we're pulling out a reserve.
No, those funds have not been used yet in this budget. If you look, for example, at the May financials,
That's a good thing to do.
Yes, it would.
in the general funds on page 6. If you look at line 5, on page 6, the third line, which is 5-78900, building maintenance admin, we've spent $24,000 this year, and there's $392,000 budgeted.
So that's where all those insurance deposits went.
Correct. Well, we received the funds in '23, but we budgeted this account higher this year, anticipating, but because this is for the municipal complex specifically, and we know that we're anticipating the amount of the roof replacements in this complex to exceed this amount, that's why this resolution is before you related to parks. Because parks maintenance items are not usually paid from Department 5. So, in theory, you could, pay for the parks greens roof replacements from this account, and then in a few months, we could come back and request to increase this line, but to try to match expenses correctly with the departments they're associated with, that's why we have this budget resolution before you.
So when the municipal league sends you the check, it's one lump sum, and it could be anywhere in the city. It may not be parks, it may be animal control, it may be
Correct.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Could be
Police
public
department.
works, so it's just one check, and you, in order not to just disperse it between each department, you keep it in the general fund.
If it is for street or wastewater, we would put that in the street fund or wastewater fund.
But
if it's
everything else
general
is
fund would
general
go into
fund.
general fund revenue.
I think the problem is that we just don't know, and I think I have to see what Councilmember Broderick's saying. She just doesn't know which, if it was like $500 went to the animal control, and you're trying to figure out what is that what you're saying?
So do we basically have a shortage of 65,000? If you take the 35,000 that the city received and the 75,000, then we got to put 65,000.
Right, the difference would be the 174,000 less the amount of insurance right now.
And so the 35,000 and the 75,000, are those dollar amounts just for these two
Correct,
areas?
yes.
Okay,
14.
so we're basically having to pull 65,000 out of reserves-ish is kind of what we're.
Kind of,
Yes.
yes. Well, I called it new money. It's 65,000 that we did, that was not part of the insurance claim.
Correct.
So I noticed on the PI roofing bid, they added the sales tax in there and of course, a little above and beyond the 48.5, but the other from Arkansas Roofing and Construction, theirs is just a bid for 110,998. There is no additional sales tax mentioned, anything there, I mean, so would that not be included in the 110,998? And how did everybody else submit their bids?
So my understanding from what it says on the bid documents is that the sales tax is not to be included in the bid. So if you look at the second page on the invitation to bid for the cart building, it says that item, let's see, where was it? I was just looking at it. Item 11, okay. Yes, sales or use tax is not to be included in the bid price, but is to be added by the vendor to the invoice billing to the city.
Okay. That explains that, thank you.
I guess my only other question is, when we did the budget, we didn't know what the number was going to be, but we knew we were gonna have to make roof repair/replacement.
Yes.
Okay. So I have a little bit of heartburn over that, because it's like, let's get everything in that we want, and then I didn't know that that was happening. I don't know if my peers did. And then, you know, basically you have no choice but to replace a roof and pull it out of reserve. So this should have been, even though we didn't have an exact number, there should have been
Point
some
well
money
taken.
allocated.
Because we knew it's
I
not
knew-
going to be 100% reimbursement.
Well, I knew it was going to have to be repaired, but I did not know, had no idea what the status of FEMA or.
We were
We
still
didn't know.
working
Municipal
with
insurance
FEMA
was
at
gonna
that
be-
point
yeah.
to receive.
Well, maybe in hindsight, we actually put a line about, you know, what is it you were saying to me today? It was our deductible, insurance deductible in case of an emergency, go ahead and have amount there. So we have something, because we seem to be in Tornado Alley.
I don't remember moving either.
I didn't either.
And I do think that probably, I know at some point, we've talked about the fact that the roofs, I mean, certainly the cart barns had a tarp on it for quite some time. I mean, it's,
Yeah, I heard about it.
So what else are we expecting is gonna come out of the building maintenance, you know, budget item? I mean, there's 367,000 left in that account without appropriating anything out of reserves. What else are we expecting that's gonna eat that up?
we've got other roofs that, other, you know, repairs from the storm that we're still trying to,
So more unknown? Well, I mean, I would say use this budget, and then when that budget's gone, then let's go back for reserves.
I like that idea.
I like that idea, too. Because according to what I've got, there's 14 total buildings that had, from Tennis Center, the Greens, you know,
I believe the Barbara Collier Complex,
Harmon Center.
Harmon Center,
this building, City Hall.
So there's more to come.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I get it, and they still need to be replaced, but we don't know what that's gonna be either. So, I mean, unless we have, you know, all of our dollars that are in that line item, you know, accounted for, let's use that money, and then when we get to the others, if we've gotta go back into reserve, we can.
So you would like to amend section 1 of this resolution to say instead of the 174,000 from reserves to, from Department 5, building maintenance?
Yes.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to amend the resolution by Councilmember Lilly and a second by Councilmember Harmon. Can you please restate the amendment, whoever gave the language?
I think I said, under section 1, the city council approves the appropriation of $174,651 from the Department 5 building maintenance of the general operating fund. Is that right?
You may need the account number because it had the account number.
The
in it.
account number being 0030. 578900000.
Did you get that? Did you get that?
I will repeat it very slowly
I'll show it.
for you senior citizens
just
down
say
there.
15.
0005.
Okay, wait, let's go slow. 05, 789,
0000.
and then 3.
Thank you, April. Thank you, Charlie.
Okay. And when you're ready, roll call.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
We have a motion and a second.
Thanks, Colleen.
on the amendment.
On the amendment.
Williams,
Aye.
Broderick.
Aye.
Brooks,
Aye.
Lilly,
Aye.
Wade,
Aye.
Harmon,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Thomas.
A resolution approving the contracts for roof repairs to the clubhouse and cart storage buildings at the Greens at North Hills as amended.
Move for the adoption as amended.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Harmon and a second by Councilmember Williams. Roll call, please.
Williams,
Aye.
Broderick.
Aye.
Brooks,
Aye.
Lilly,
Aye.
Wade,
Aye.
Harmon,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Thomas. The motion passes unanimously.
Moving on, we have a resolution approving the contract for the Lake Cherrywood Park improvements projects in Sherwood.
I had a question about this one too. Is this an additional 95,000 to the 400,000 that we allocated? Am I reading that properly?
Parks and Rec.
Is this amendment asking for an additional 95,000 because we only budgeted 400,000? Do I understand?
Budgeted 400 and we got 210 in the grant, so we're looking at, what, 610 total for the project.
But did we know that we were getting the grant to begin? I mean, we knew we were trying to get the grant. I'm asking, are we asking for more money?
No.
No,
there's
no, we're
no
just
ask.
approving the contract,
There's
that's all
no
we're doing.
It's
allocation.
improving the contract that we already have within our budget that we set for this. We put in X amount of dollars thinking that if we did not receive the grant, then we would be able to continue on with the project, so.
Okay.
You have a resolution before you. Any other?
Quick question, has work already begun? Because Ms. Brooks and I were over there visiting with a resident that had a question for us, he's one of our constituents, about something in their land, and so we went to visit them. And when we came back, and just the trees are down and things have been bulldozed.
There's gonna be some
Site
city
prep.
work and site work that we have to do
That-
on top of what is in this contract, so we began that already.
All right.
We jumped ahead.
I was wondering, I said, we already got these people, so it's us guys working.
We did, yes.
Correct. Yeah, it was not in the scope of this contract.
Gotcha, okay.
Move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Harmon and a second by Councilmember Brooks. Roll call, please.
Williams,
Aye.
Broderick.
Aye.
Brooks,
Aye.
Lilly,
Aye.
Wade,
Aye.
Harmon,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Moving on to Planning Commission. We have an ordinance before you amending the existing zoning code with respect to conditional use permits and for other purposes. Shelby?
Good evening, Shelby Smith, City Planner. So before you this evening, the first one is an ordinance to amend the portion of the zoning code which speaks to conditional uses. That is Section 140210. And what this is an ordinance where staff has diligently worked with the Planning Commission since March, and they have since recommended this for approval. It's more so administrative, making sure we're current with state laws, and also giving criteria for Planning Commission and City Council approval. So I'll take any questions.
Yeah, what are the changes?
They're significant. So within the current zoning code, there was not a redacted version provided. We have completely taken it and overhauled it. It's an amendment in its entirety. So with that, it goes in, it's just the application requirements. It explicitly delineates what's required of the applicant for technical information. And then it goes into public notice to where it is consistent with state law. That is inclusive of the school district and Little Rock Air Force Base. And then it goes into signage requirements. One of the major things that we've done with this amendment and the next is typically, as it's required now, the applicant has to procure an abstract list on their own, and that can cost quite a bit of money. I know the city's done it, and it's been a couple $1,000s for some. So what the city is now doing now as part of the application fee, we are going to produce that list for the applicant. So that's one of the major changes, and so with that, the applicant will then be responsible to send out those public notice letters. And then it also gives, this is something new that does not currently exist, is standards for approval. So it does list some standards that should be considered by planning commissioners as well as city council when an application is before you.
I did like the language you changed from pulling a license, a permit, to
Yes.
changing it to issuing a license. Because when they say they're gonna pull a license, that meant to give you one. And pulling something to me, like when we put someone's teacher's license, that means we jerked it away.
Right.
So I think the clarity is lots better with that change, whoever brought
And
that
that's
up.
the internal lingo. For us, it means something different when they come and pull a permit so they can do work. So with that, I will quickly note, it does speak to, since this is a conditional use permit, it will still come before you. Other communities do not operate that way when it comes to conditional use, but it will still come before you. But it does have expiration, and it does also allow the applicant, based on the commencement of the development and pulling that building permit, the opportunity, like other permits, to request an extension. So there was a lot of thought that went into it with staff, and we tried to be as thorough as possible to make it simplified on all ends.
I've got two questions, I think.
Okay.
First, you said a couple of times that the notice provisions have been changed to comply with state law provisions. Were state law provisions more strict or more lenient than the previous Sherwood provisions?
So what it was speaking to the notification requirements and the publication. It had to be out 15 days prior to the public hearing. State law currently speaks to the notification of the school district. It just was not explicitly stated in there, and then we took the extra step and added the Air Force Base.
Okay, so that's all we did. We added two additional parties.
It is very clear now what would be required. There's not interpretation required.
Okay, so we didn't change like distances or time limits or anything like that?
So we did change the distance as it pertains to the notification list. It was 300 feet. We've reduced it to 2, and that is sufficient.
We
250?
reduced,
200 feet, yes,
we reduced it.
yes.
So that means that fewer people are going to be notified of the existence of a petition than were previously notified.
It would be within 200 feet of the center of that property.
So potentially fewer, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
Potentially fewer people.
And if that is something that y'all are not comfortable with, staff is really anxious to get this rolling. It's going to make it better on all ends. So if that is something that you would like to see 300 feet, we can go back.
I'm just not know if I'm comfortable with us notifying fewer people than we've been notifying historically. I mean,
I would agree with
What
that.
what is the reasoning from the 300 to the 200? Why did you all decide to
It's
go that route?
typically in line with how other communities operate. Ours was the most stringent as it pertained to that abstract list, which also increased the cost for the applicant having to get that list.
And we've talked about business-friendly and, Sherwood being, we don't want Sherwood being perceived as the most difficult to work with. And so it sounds to me like they're just trying to go with what the standard is in central Arkansas.
And with that, and I will say, that does not take away, signs are still required to be posted on the property, so anybody that driving by would be able to acknowledge the placement of that sign there. But that's not a hill I'll die on, so.
So can we read it one time and then next month have the copy of, since it's a total rework, that way we can kind of see the two, since this isn't a red line version? That makes
So
sense.
I can come up with a overhaul summary. I mean, what's currently there is maybe a page and a half. This is very detailed compared to what was there. We kept with the intent of it, but we can come up with a summary. It's probably not going to be very long because the detail is within this new section. But I'm fine with the one read tonight.
I agree with you. I mean, I at least like something that bulletizes, the differences, I mean, and enough time to do a stare and compare,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
and before we go off the subject tonight, I mentioned I had two questions. My other question is standards for approval. Sometimes standards for approval for us make me nervous because sometimes a standard for approval can mean you're taking our objectivity away, and that, we've got 8 standards of approval here in the section E, and if they click all 8, then we don't have a right to reject them. Is that the situation here?
So
If
what
they-
this is, essentially, it's things in line with that, but more so for consideration of the proposed use with the adjacent property. What would it be an impact? And that's essentially what we looked at whenever we came through and looked at these. Specifically, like the traffic generated safeguards limiting like noxious, and offensive. Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
in essence, it isn't restricting that objectivity, but it is adding a layer that this is a minimum standard.
Okay.
So it's basically saying you can't approve it unless
Okay.
you have a finding of fact that affirms
Yeah,
those
that's-
8 points.
And there's two ways it can go. It can either be what you're saying, you can't approve it unless, or you have to prove it if. So you're saying this is a you can't approve it unless type list. Okay, that's, all right. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, are we in agreement, one-time reading, and we'll move on? Okay. All right, next up, we have an ordinance amending the existing zoning code with respect to amendments and for other purposes.
So again, this next item before you is a request to amend. This is 140209, the amendments, specifically that of amendments to zoning, so rezones. This one did not change too much compared to what already is there, but it did follow the same processes of going in and speaking to, basically differentiating between the request for amendments, the enforcement officer acting on behalf of the city, and it goes into detail of those amendments initiated by the city, could be the planning commission, that could be city council, and then it goes in to break it down for amendments initiated by the applicant. So it follows the same spirit and the intent of the conditional use. There was a comment that was brought up today, and we had spoke about it. What we're doing moving forward, there's been a lot of reference to city engineer and a lot of the other sections. And when we brought the nonconformities before you back late last year, and also the amendment to the fence requirements a couple months ago, maybe, we're changing that to enforcement officer to keep things consistent. And there already is a definition within the code that speaks to who the enforcement officer is. And I don't want it to get confused with code enforcement officer, because that is not what the intent of this is. But other than that, this one is pretty simplistic, and we can also do the same thing, provide an overview, if that would help.
Right, because on here it also has the 200 feet if,
Right. Everything
Oh.
should speak and be consistent moving forward. That way there's no confusion, or people are
Right.
like, oh, we have to, check this one out before we can confirm something.
Right.
Consistently moving forward is the key.
okay.
Yeah, I would appreciate you summarizing the.
I can do that.
The major differences for sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on, we have nothing under permits and planning department. That brings us to street committee. Chairman, Councilmember Lilly.
Street committee did not meet. There was no new business to be held, so did get silent updates on our street projects and things of that nature, so, but we do have a resolution on the agenda for this evening.
We have a resolution appointing Randy Jones to serve the remaining term, replacing J. Blake Forrest to the City of Sherwood Street Committee.
Move for adoption?
We have a motion by Councilmember Brooks and a second by Councilmember Williams. Roll call, please.
Williams. Broderick. Brooks.
Aye.
Lilly.
Aye.
Wade.
Aye.
Harmon.
Aye.
Sanders. Thomas. The motion passes unanimously.
Next up, we have an ordinance amending Ordinance 2140 regarding the adoption of new policies and procedures for animal control and for other purposes. Councilmember Harmon, did you want to speak to this
Sure,
first?
I will. I will mention that ordinance 2140 that we've operated under for many years now, I assisted Robin in the drafting of that ordinance. Gosh, that's been 14, 15 years ago, a long time ago. And that is a BSL ordinance, breed-specific legislation ordinance. and which I know has been a problem for, is a problem for a lot of people. And the chief asked me if I would sponsor this ordinance for the purposes of discussion, so we could put it out there and see, get a temperature and see what people's thoughts are about going away from a BSL ordinance to an ordinance, basically a behavior ordinance, a behavior-based ordinance. I will tell you that I'm nervous about an ordinance like this, and I told the chief I was nervous about an ordinance. I'm not telling you anything I didn't tell him. I'm nervous about an ordinance like this. When I was 19 or 20, something like that, my dad and I watched two pit bull terriers or American Staffordshire Terriers, don't know what their breed was exactly, that lived behind us, pull down one of our quarter horses. Two dogs pull a quarter horse down, and they would have killed it if we hadn't had come up with our shotguns when somebody told us what was going on that could see, and we came up with our shotguns to scare it away. Now, we couldn't shoot them because we'd have shot our horse, but the shotguns were enough to scare the dogs away. And, I'm always told that it has to do with the way dogs are raised and, the way they're trained by their owners. But you just don't see a lot of stories on CNN or anything else about anybody's Pekingese tearing up, killing the next door neighbor or anything. So it's always, I've always been nervous around pit bulls, and I have dogs. I have rescue animals. And, I have a 70-pound, 9-month-old 70-pound dog at the house right now that's a mixed breed rescue, but doesn't scare me at all. So it's just, it makes me nervous. And with the behavior ordinance like this, we go from a set standard that says these breeds are not allowed in the city of Sherwood, period. If you bring them in Sherwood, you have so many days to take them out of the city of Sherwood, or else they'll be taken away from you. To an ordinance that says you get one bite. Okay, your Staffordshire Terrier, your whatever, gets one bite. Okay, or they get 2 bites if they're biting another dog, or they get 1 kill if they're killing another dog, and they definitely only get 1 kill if they're killing a person. But they have to injure somebody or injure another dog or destroy property or something like that before they're defined as a vicious animal. And it's troubling to me to say that we're going to go to an ordinance that defines animals by behavior so that we have to wait until they've already caused damage, injury, or even severe injury before we act, when we could have acted previously and prevented that. That's my thoughts. Now, I'm going to try to have an open mind. I've only recently started my research on this, and I will continue to research it to see where we are, what the research is. I see some people drop something on my desk today here. I've not read all of that, but I will. And if anybody wants to send me anything, my email address is on the website, the city's website, and you're free to email me anything you want to email me, and I will read whatever I'm sent. That's my thought on it.
Council members, can we hold for just a second to continue the discussion? We have several people who've signed up to speak. Can we listen to what they have to say? Because that might add to the conversation, and then we'll
What he said. I don't know what a BSL is. What did you say?
Breed specific
specific
legislation.
legislation.
Breed
Yes.
specific legislation. The breeds are named in the ordinance. And we are reading this only once tonight, by the way. I assume
Right.
everybody knows that.
If we could please have the people who have signed up to speak, there are 4 of you, if you all would, please come over to the side. When you come up, please know you've got 3 minutes. Please state your name and your address for the record, please. First up, we have Angel Osborne, and then it'll be followed by Lindsay Johnson, Laura Pfeiffer, and then Courtney Mixon, and that's the order in which people signed up to speak. So, and remember, 3 minutes, and our city attorney will give you a countdown if you get close to it, okay?
May I let Ms. Johnson go before me, please? She's probably the one that I need to follow up behind, if that's allowed.
Sure. Ms. Lindsay Johnson, would you like to?
I appreciate you.
Yeah,
allowing
that's
that to
fine.
happen.
I'm Lindsay Johnson. I live on Country Club.
Yeah, and please speak into the mic so that, there you go. Thank you.
I'm Lindsay Johnson. I live on Country Club Road. The reason why the ban should not be lifted is because you never know what a pit bull is going to do. And my son had to pay the price of somebody owning 2 pit bulls. And y'all can see in the pictures that she's passing around right now. And, you know, if y'all do lift it, a pit bull attack might not happen today. It might not happen in a week or a year, but it will. And the blood from that child or that elderly person or anybody will be on y'all's hands. And it's not fair for y'all to lift it and for that to possibly be something that happens to somebody else's family. My 15-year-old at the time and my 10-year-old was the one that found my son like that while I was trying to look for him too. And that is not something that y'all would ever want to experience ever. And I moved to Sherwood because y'all had to lift the ban. And it's thank you.
Can I just say, Ms. Johnson's trying to save your law enforcement from having to deal with this, from your families having to deal with this, from your children's best friends losing their friend, from their siblings finding them, from your hospital agencies here having to see that. Nobody should ever have to see that. That's caused by an animal.
And it doesn't just affect the family. All of Faulkner County sheriffs was at my house, and a lot of them quit their jobs within weeks. And some of them, it actually ended their marriage because they spiraled out of control and didn't know how to cope with seeing a 9-year-old like that was so close to their kid's age. It's just, y'all can't lift it. Because if it could take down a horse, I mean, y'all could see what it did to my son. And that was only within 10 minutes. He was only gone for 10 minutes, and that's what 2 pit bulls did to my son. That's all. I can't anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing that.
If you'll go ahead and state your name for the record and your
My name
address.
is- My address?
Your name and address, yes, ma'am.
Okay. I would prefer not to give my address. I do live in North Little Rock. My name is Angel Osborne. I did grow up in Sherwood. My children play sports in Sherwood. I frequent Sherwood, shop in Sherwood. My best friend lives in Sherwood. We're here quite often. I'm here in order to make sure that if you're going to use a ordinance to basically erase a breed-specific legislation that's been in place in Sherwood for years, that you understand the consequences that can follow that you understand that there are families that deal with that. And we're not talking about just death. You're talking about permanent scarring. You're talking about losing limbs. You're talking about losing your digis. You're talking about, I understand that you're wanting to put license fees on these dogs, that you're wanting to hold owners accountable. But how do you keep track of that? I know that you say you have to register them with the city, but if they're adopting, yeah, you absolutely can keep accountability with that. But if they're getting their pit bull from their best friend or they bought it from a breeder, how do you truly keep accountability for that? How do you know they're microchipped? How do you know that they're sterilized? How do you know they've had the rabies vaccination? How do you know their temperament? I know that the city of Sherwood was explained to me that they use one person to do a temperament test on animals before they adopt them out. Is the city ready to take responsibility because one person that does rescue, but is not a professional person, to say that they've only been trained in temperament testing? You're talking about temperament testing is 12 minutes in public with 3 quote-unquote non-biased professionals. How do you know that those aren't non-biased professionals? What I'm saying is that there's so many questions that you have in order to really think about lifting or omitting this band into Sherwood City's place, that you're taking a big risk in a populated area with people that are frequently outside in the beautiful city. Could you imagine if those dogs have to have muzzles? How would that make you feel walking down the road and somebody has a muzzle on their dog just because of its breed, because now it's allowed? Those are things that you're asking in the new ordinance.
Ma'am, you
I
have
don't-
30 seconds.
I just don't feel like there's enough accountability to outweigh the risk for the propensity of an animal that continuously has proven time and time again across different parts of the United States that it is an attack. They are attack type dogs. They were bred and designed by man for that exact reason, and now they're in households. 80% of attacks happen within the home, on the owners and the children of the owners. I'm just wanting you to put those wheels in motion before you
Ma'am, your
decide to
time
lift
has
it.
expired.
I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Laura Pfeiffer, please state your name and your address, please.
Laura Pfeiffer, 3016 New Kingston Court, Sherwood. I've lived in Sherwood for 19 years, and I'm actually a person who volunteers actively at the Sherwood shelter regularly. So I'm very familiar with the types of dogs we have in our shelter. Something to keep in mind is that you have to look at, like, even the American Kennel Club, the ASPCA, American Veterinary and Medical Association, they do not support breed discrimination. Breed discrimination, this form of legislation, actually provides a false sense of safety because it is not focusing on real objective laws that are proven to equate to safety. Objective laws are easily enforceable. They don't impact just certain types of dogs they don't impact certain types of dogs based on their looks, but when it's objective, it looks at every single dog and then makes the owner accountable as well. Whenever things are subjective, I don't really believe that you can have a subjective law in any form of government because things need to be in a more objective, factual, scientifically based, sometimes even with this, because there is research on this subject. You can look at different things online, and I can send things as well. But whenever things are subjective, and you're just looking at the looks of a dog, a lot of times a dog in a shelter is then misidentified. It is facts that about 89% of the time, a dog is not identified properly in a shelter. So all of a sudden, we are saying this dog, based on his looks, is a pit bull terrier. And if you're in the Sherwood shelter, it's obviously we have to try to have that dog adopted out of our city. Whenever it is just based on objective, if there was an objective law in place, then this would allow these dogs to be more easily adopted because they could be adopted into our city. I am a person who is at the shelter every week. And I have a full-time family, I work, I do everything. But I love animals, and I love dogs specifically.
Ma'am, you have 30 seconds.
So it breaks my heart to see that time and time again that these very good dogs they sit in the shelter forever because we cannot adopt them out in this city based on a very old law. So I'm just looking forward to something where we could end this discrimination. Thank you.
Thank you. Courtney Mixon. Please state name and address, please.
My name is Courtney Mixon. I'm actually a North Little Rock resident, but my whole time is spent in Sherwood. I work here, I drive through here, I love it here. I wish I could move here, but I can't. I've researched BSL for about 8 years now, and I know the good, the bad, the ugly. I know what can happen, but it's not just these types of dogs. Any dog can bite. Any dog with teeth can bite. I've seen a husky take a chunk out of an arm. I've seen a lab, my lab personally, take a chunk out of my brother, and he was adopted from the North Little Rock Animal Shelter. He was male aggressive. It's not how you raise these types of dogs. It's how you manage them. You can have a aggressive dog and still be okay. I'm okay with the muzzle. Believe me, I would tell people, hey, my dog is aggressive. Please don't come near it. I managed my dog correctly until he was 16 years old. I know what these dogs can do. I've been around these dogs. BSL is unconstitutional. It underfunds our shelter, and I say our shelter because I love the Sherwood shelter. Believe me, I'm like, hey, you want a pit bull? Go see Sherwood. Now North Little Rock is following your lead because they are adopting dogs out to non-BSL areas. That is amazing. That is huge. Their numbers have gone tremendously down because they are following your lead. Maumelle ended BSL. Cabot ended BSL. They have insurance to cover these. Hold the owners responsible. We don't want dogs out there just running loose and hurting little babies. We don't want that. We want to hold these owners accountable. If a dog bites once, let's get it, a behavioral list, and let's see what he does. Let's get a temperament test. Let's not just have these dogs roaming areas so they can hurt people and hurt other animals, because they're not that type of dogs. If they're running loose, let's get them and take them and figure out what's going on. Let's hold mandatory spay and neuter laws. Let's microchip them. Let's do low-cost shot clinics. Let's educate the city on BSL and why it doesn't work. Let's come and make our number one goal public safety. That is our number one goal, right? Is to have public safety. And that's what we need as a community. North Little Rock, Sherwood, let's end BSL because it doesn't do anything but hurt the city and our shelter employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, and Chris, do you want to come up to, no, Chief, okay. Chief, the floor is yours.
Okay, so I appreciate y'all, looking at this ordinance, and I appreciate Alderman Harmon for being willing to sponsor this, to get it in front of you so we can begin discussions. A year and a half ago, when we took over the shelter under the umbrella of the police department, I tasked the folks at the animal shelter to do two things. One is, well, three things actually. That place needed to really be cleaned up, and they've done a good job of that. But two, there needed to be a policy and procedure in place for the animal shelter itself, and that has been completed and is in the process of being published. The second thing that I asked them to do was review the ordinance and to update that ordinance if it was needed. So what they did was they went out and they did research, and they talked to other cities, and they looked at successful animal shelters around the city or around other cities in the state of Arkansas, and they came up with, they drafted this ordinance based on best practices and based on influence from very successful and very good animal shelters around the state. I am aware that there are people that are concerned about breed-specific legislation both ways, and what I'm asking you to do is this. I'm going to have to ask you all to do what I've done. I'm not an expert on animals. I'm not an expert on animal control. That is not my That's not my area of expertise. It's not what I grew up in. But I've tried to educate myself, and the people that I have entrusted down there have tried to educate themselves. So what I would ask y'all to do, and that's the reason we asked this to be read once tonight. We wanted to put it in front of you. I will individually contact each of you and sit down, and I will answer any questions that you have, and I will try to honor your request and your concerns in every way that we can. But what I would ask of you is, if you would take the time to schedule a meeting with the animal shelter. Chris Clark is our manager down there. I would like for y'all, if you have an opportunity, schedule a time with him, sit down and let him go over the research. I would ask you to listen to the residents that are in your ward and hear them, and then let's try to get some legislation that works the best for our city and our residents. And if that is to continue with breed-specific language, then, at least we enter into that educated and we know what the right thing to do is. If it is to move away from that and go to more a language that is behavior identified, then we can do that with an educated understanding of what's out there. That's the only ask that I can make of y'all, and that's the reason we wanted to get it in front of y'all. Our desire is to do what's best, obviously, is to do what's best for the residents of the city and for the best interest of the shelter. And I think when you meet and you talk to our staff, and they'll tell you about some of the problems that we have based on the current ordinance and the way that we have to do things, it does seriously at times impede our ability to on the animal. We have to take the animals in, and then sometimes we can't get them out. And we have animals that, this is, and you'll find this out when you talk to the staff, but they're, technically when you do a DNA test on an animal, it goes back 8 generations. It's going to show up if there's any, pit in that animal. Well, that thing, it may not look like a pit, and it may not act like a pit, but it still has, we have to treat it as a pit because of our language in the ordinance, and so we're not able to, we've got dogs up there now that people have tried to adopt, and we cannot adopt them in the city because of that language. So I would just ask you to discuss it with your residents, get educated, talk to our staff, and then, like I say, I will schedule meetings with each of you, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. And
I do think it's important that you guys go to the shelter and actually see some of the dogs. I have personally done that, and dogs that, in fact, I would dare say that the dog you adopted, if a DNA test was done, probably has some pit in it. Almost all dogs now have some pit in them if they are just a shelter mixed breed dog. That's just the reality. And they kind of did a little quiz with me and were like, this dog, what breed is it? What do you think breed it is? And I didn't get any of them right, and so it really is, you've heard the story of hash brown. We've had so many families try to adopt hash brown. We have another dog, King, is it? King, yeah, you've seen video of him, but take the time to actually see what these dogs are like, what they look like. It really is important.
I'm going to ask you to do one other thing also. I want you to read the existing ordinance that we're calling a BSL, because it is a hybrid breed-specific legislation ordinance that Robin and I drafted. We specifically included in this ordinance both the subjective language that includes a list, pit bull terrier, Staffordshire bull terrier, and so on and so forth. But then we also included the objective language, any vicious animal being a domestic animal that without provocation attacks a person engaged in lawful activity, so on and so forth. So we've got much the same language that the new ordinance has, so that it's both objective and subjective. It has both in it. It's not just a subjective ordinance, not just a breed-specific legislation type ordinance. So I would ask you to read through the entire ordinance if you can, but if not, at least read section 19 of the existing ordinance, which is where all of that language is included.
I did.
So Chief, I have a question for Chief. So Chief, how do you define successful as it relates to an animal shelter? And, you know, how many animals are we talking about? If we're talking, 100 come through and, what percentage or what number are considered pit bull?
Chris, can you answer that? Yeah, I can't answer that question off the top of my
Yeah,
head as
I'd
far
like
as
to see
numbers.
that.
Yeah, we can get that information.
So what's considered successful? How do you define that?
Successful, the way I would define successful is there's no animal shelter that's going to be perfect by any means, but what I would define as successful is we want to be able to go out and take in animals. If people surrender animals, we want to be able to take them in, and we want to be able to effectively take care of those animals when we get in and get them to their proper owner if we can find them. And of course, you'll see the microchipping part inside the ordinance as well. And then to be able to adopt those animals that we can't locate owners, so we can adopt those animals out. I'm not telling you that this ordinance is perfect. I'm just telling you that this is the best that we could come up with based on kind of the current philosophy out there and the current practices that are being done by. And I will tell you that they're being done by shelters that are known to be good shelters. So I mean, I can't give you a definitive standard as how that's judged.
So do you think you're not being successful today, and why not?
I think that we have had a lot of turnover, and I think that we're getting there. I think that we're doing better, and that's the goal, is to continue to get better. I'm relying on, because I am not the expert, and I'm relying on the information that's being provided to me, that these are good practices and these are recommended practices that are being done today. So, and that's why I tell you, I think that, unfortunately, the way this works, I mean, y'all are the legislative body, and all I can do is give you the best information that I can, and this is what the staff has come up with for y'all to consider. What I would ask you to do is, and I know that you can't become an expert on animals and animal control in a month or 2 months. I understand that, but I would just like you to just weigh look at and I agree with what Mr. Harmon said. I think at the time that this legislation was passed, I think that at that time that was probably the best practice, and that's not exactly what is considered best practice now, according to experts, and which I am not one, I'll tell you right up front. But, I would ask you to just, at the end of the day, do your own research, talk to the people that are at the shelter and let them explain to you. I mean, we could sit up here all night and I could tell you problems that we've had, but just sit down with them and then listen to your residents, because at the end of the day, that's who we're here to serve, so.
I totally agree. I would welcome, and I think all of us would welcome to hear from our residents and let us, reach out to us and please let us know what you think, because we've had several today, but not like a huge outpouring. But we would like to hear from everybody and let us know what you think. So we know this is a big change for Sherwood. I've been sitting up here for 20 years, and this is a big change.
Yeah, I think going from proactive to reactive, requires a whole lot of consideration.
I do too.
But what I would ask too, Chief, you said turnover. I'm assuming that you're talking about personnel.
Yes, we've had a lot of turnover. Matter of fact, we have one employee that is here, that was here when we took over. And we didn't, I think we terminated one employee, but.
With change,
Yeah, just
turnover's
change.
gonna happen
Yeah.
with change. That's unfortunate, but, and there's been a lot of change there. I think, probably a lot for the good, and that's great. But yeah, with turnover, staffing and all that, you're gonna have a lot of turnover in the first stages of change. I would think that would have been expected.
Right.
So, yeah, so, have some of these that have, left the department, have they said the cause is because of our current ordinance?
No, sir. No, I don't believe anybody left because of the current ordinance that I'm aware of.
Chief, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Did your office put this at our tables?
I brought it up there from Chris, had him back there, and I offered to put them up there for him.
Where these came from?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know he had passed them out yet, but I knew he'd brought them.
Kevin's comment as well as Charlie's, several of us were on the council in 2017 when the existing ordinance was passed. But when you made reactive versus proactive, that also was 6 months to a year after the lady jogging in Hot Springs was attacked and mauled and murdered by an adult lady. And the ban on pit bulls became statewide for a bulk of cities. Because it was supposedly a tame dog and no problems, and she was down the street, and the grandmother opened the door and let the dog out, and did not know that it didn't have any control. And so that was right before this happened, or that happened before we wrote our legislation. But I've had, like I said, 3 or 4 phone calls, texts today, and everyone supported the existing ordinance, not the new ordinance. We would have supported it. That's what my calls have been so far.
Okay. Any other questions for me?
So if we have questions on the new ordinance, I've marked a couple of things. Do you want us to contact you?
Well, yes, and I will contact each of you and try to set up a time to meet with you individually and I will answer any questions that I can. And then, like I say, I would encourage you to get with the staff and listen to, to their input, because they're a lot more educated than I am. I'm still learning, so.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Council prepared to move on? Okay. Old business?
I have a question under old business.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any update or anything on Rock Region Metro and when they're coming? Because it seems like it's been several months since we passed the ordinance.
We've had several meetings with them. They've had some stakeholder meetings with businesses and so forth to prepare, but the latest we've heard is I think August is what we're looking at. So a lot of it has been, they had they said successful class, go through the training, and so that's kind of where we are. As soon as I get an update, I'll send it out to the council and it'll be publicized and so forth. But I think their next step is they wanted to have, advertise out a public meeting. So I think they're talking about having that at the Harmon Center, so.
I mean,
We've already got a signed agreement with them.
Well,
Yeah.
it's about educating the public. It doesn't change the process any, it's just,
I
it's
thought
what they
were-
want to
I
do.
thought when they came, when we passed that, they were gonna be coming within like imminently because they had their, I don't know.
It's, that is something that is beyond my control. So
I-
all
I
I can
don't-
do is give you the information
Oh,
as I get it.
I'm not saying, I'm not directing this at you. If you seem to think that, I'd apologize, but
No problem.
It's crazy.
All
I
right.
agree.
I don't disagree. Any other old business? If not, we do have an item under new business. All right.
Council and Mayor, you should have received an email from Bill Mann from the Arkansas Municipal League. It went out Wednesday or Thursday, I believe, of last week. The city's engaged in some litigation in the federal courts. We're the defendant in the action. The plaintiff's attorneys have requested a mediation. A mediation in these types of cases happens actually in the federal court. The federal judge appoints a magistrate to be the mediator. It is not binding on the city, but it is a good opportunity to let a trained professional, that being the magistrate, hear your side of the case and the other side of the case, and can sometimes provide some insight that aids in moving the case along to a resolution. For this to take place, however, I have to have the consensus of the council, and I'm going to have the council, as many as I can have in attendance. I'm going to have at least 6. And I cannot tell you when it will be scheduled. All I can ask tonight is to find if there's a consensus among the council members that they would like to see if we can engage in a mediation, and they'd be willing to cooperate in the actual mediation itself.
Do you feel that this is something that we need to do?
Bill does, Mr. Mann does, and I do too. I think,
Okay.
and some of you may remember, we've done this once before. Beverly, I think you were on that one, and we ended up settling the case that day. So they're helpful, yeah.
I missed the day at the lake. I won't forget my missing the day at the lake, so I
Maureen,
remember.
I'm still apologizing, I'm sorry.
Do we have 6 council members that can take off to, we don't know,
Yeah.
we don't know the date, so if this would be a work day.
Obviously I have a couple of trips, I'll be gone, but I can commit to be there, that's not a problem, but it's like what?
I'm anticipating, don't hold me to this, but I'm thinking probably sometime next month or early August, because we're rolling up on some deadlines in the federal case.
I was thinking January, and we could break in some new council members that way.
Nice try.
I like the way you think.
Okay, can I get a consensus in terms of numbers, who would like to do it? Okay,
A couple weeks in August, we'll be gone.
I can do it.
okay, Kyle?
I can do it, I'm in town.
Okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4,
I'll certainly do my
5,
best, yeah.
6, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Then I'm going to advise Mr. Mann in the morning that we'd like to ask the court to schedule it, and then I'll get back out. Thank you.
Yeah, Steve, usually I'm flexible. I'll have to see what's going on during that time.
Well, I'm grateful. This is good, and be good for the department.
All right, moving on to announcements. July 1st starts the Little Bear program, and this is for 3 to 5-year-olds. And we've had quite a few people sign up for it. It's kind of an introductory into lots of different sports, so they get to a little bit of soccer, a little bit of basketball, a little bit of football. So we're really excited about bringing this new program to Sherwood. So if you know of anybody else, though, who would like to sign up, you've got the phone number there, and for the viewing audience, it's 501-835-6893. July 3rd, we have our fireworks and food trucks Independence Day celebration at the Greens of North Hills. For those who were here last year, it was an absolutely incredible event. The The golf course is just such a beautiful venue in which to have this. There's so much room to spread out. It's so easy to see the fireworks. It felt like Central Park out there. Families were having picnics and playing Frisbee and, football and all sorts of different things. And it was just phenomenal. And there will be, if heat is an issue for you, we have the Balcony Blast fundraiser. That will be upstairs. The proceeds go to the COPS organization. It will be, catfish and shrimp, and it'll be wonderful food, as well as a great place. You'll have the best views in air conditioning, and it supports a wonderful program. Tickets are available online. There will be some at the door as well, and you can go to eventbrite.com, and the doors open at 6 to purchase tickets. And then July 19th, we have First Responder and Military Appreciation Day at the Sherwood Pools. Free entry with valid military ID. And I would think also if you've got, ID, if you're a first responder from MIMS or the fire department, bring your ID, show that you're a first responder, UAMS, et cetera, and you can use that to get in.
I have an announcement.
Yes,
real
ma'am.
fast. Keep Sure Beautiful Yard of the Month. If you know a good yard of the month in your area, if you could turn it in by June 22nd. And I know in wards 2 and 4, we really need some nominations. So if you live in wards. No, I'm sorry. By this apologize, this Saturday, whatever that date is. 29th, I meant to
All
write
right.
down.
June
29th.
29th. And anybody can nominate, correct?
Anybody can nominate, and you can nominate anywhere in the city. We're still accepting nominations for all wards, but we really need some for 2 and 4. So please turn your nominations in on Facebook. Keep Sure Beautiful Facebook page. Thank you. By this Saturday. Thank you.
And Chief has exciting announcements.
Yeah, so I would like to announce that tonight, Captain Harper, if you'll stand up. Tonight is Captain Harper's last council meeting with us.
And will you please come up to the front, Captain Harper?
Now, are you excited or is he excited?
So I'll tell you, Captain Harper's been with the Sherwood Police Department for 28 years. He's retiring Friday at 2 o'clock. Y'all are more than, we would love to have y'all in attendance for his retirement. We also have 3 promotions that will take place. His replacement, stand up, Lieutenant Edwards. This will be his replacement. He'll be our new Patrol Division Commander. Y'all will get to know him well. I'll get you his phone number. And he will be taking Captain Harper's place as our new Patrol Division Commander. And then we have Sergeant Aaron McDermott will be promoted to Lieutenant Friday as well. And Officer David Chrisman will be promoted to Sergeant Friday as well. So congratulations to them. And Captain Harper, I can't tell you thanks enough. I appreciate all that you've done. He's been a great asset to the department. We wish him the best in his new endeavors.
Thank you so
y'all.
much for your service.
Hey, Mayor, I've got a quick question.
Yes, sir.
And your announcements made me think about it. I noticed you didn't announce anything for the Durand Youth Center. How long do we think that's going to be out of commission because of the air conditioner?
That's something that will be discussed at Parks and Rec, but I would rather that kind of, so, I mean, basic.
We don't have any ballpark. I mean, we're talking about $33,000.
We do not at this time. We did not budget for that. Part of the problem is that despite all best efforts, we just have not been able to develop a real following over there. We're hoping that perhaps we're planning on applying, no guarantee, but some grants that would really enhance that area and maybe help get things going. But we have so few families that are signed up, and it's just not at this time, a real good use of employee assets. And so we really kind of want to take a pause and go, okay, what do we see the future and what could we do, instead of just continuing down a path just to continue down a path. Not to say that, we won't have it in the future, but we do know that it's just we are getting so few people utilizing it. It's like, would you like to speak to that at all?
Are you talking on a day-to-day basis? Because I was seeing all the things about the bingo nights and these nights and the mobs of folks there.
And so we can still do things like that. We can do them at the Harmon Center, we can do them in other places.
That's where
Let
the
me come back to my
successes
question.
come.
Were those events really full, though, as was advertised?
The bingo nights were,
I've been to several of them.
We're
like
full.
The bingo nights, and I took my son, and a lot of them were full. The bash that happened this weekend, there was a lot of people there. The big problem has been with the day-to-day activities over there.
So they could still have special events there?
Yes.
Correct. We could do
Okay.
special events there, or we
Gotcha.
can move those to somewhere else. We can go to the Bill Harmon Rec Center, Sherwood Forest, the Greens, whatever we choose to do. We've had a hard time. I think the memberships may be just north of 50 for the whole place.
and that includes
And-
adults, the parents as well.
Correct. So we've tried to program it up, and we've got some following with some of these programs that maybe we can utilize those there, but as far as it being open all day, every day, it's just very, very, very tough.
What kind of programs?
Like some of the stuff that they've done over there, like the programming is what, Ronia's done a good job of, like the bingo nights, the fall
Okay, well-
bash,
Historically, that building was used for, however old I am, for
I went there too.
art lessons, as in fact. it
We
has
have
an
not
art
been able to
lab.
find anybody willing to
Teach art.
teach art there.
We had art lessons there for years.
Taekwondo was there for a
We
while.
had
Taekwondo.
We did
Gymnastics.
pottery.
Gymnastics,
Pottery.
we've had a lot of programs, and we've
Ceramics.
attempted to do different
Ceramics,
things with stuff, and it's hard to do some of the programming over there with, no following, no.
People just
aren't
don't
bringing-
sign up.
We're having some of those same issues, to be honest with you. with some
Two
of
art
our
teachers
classes
at the
that we
high
audit.
school, Silverville's High School, are retiring, or retired at the end of this year, and they make pottery, art, they're
And you're
available.
mentioning membership. I mean, back then, for historically, again, you didn't have to pay to be a member of anything. If you wanted to take art lessons, you had to pay art lesson
Right.
fees and stuff like that, but you
We've
didn't have
looked
to be
at
a
some of
member
those,
of the Duran.
having your contractors come in and they do some setups where they do some of those things, and the membership's $24 a year.
And
$2 a day to go in there and things of that nature, and it's just.
it's not cost prohibitive. That's
Well, maybe we're
not the
advertising.
problem.
Are we advertising?
Yeah,
Oh,
we
gosh,
pushed-
yes.
We pushed out,
Okay.
I mean, I
Tremendously.
would brag on Heather for everything that we do. She pushes out
Good.
stuff like we never have before. Memberships have been an issue, day-to-day uses has been an issue. We have staff there that's all day there with nobody that comes in. We have brought in some
First we're hearing about it?
school groups, to, the homeschooling groups. We've tried to get those involved, and we've
So one of the things that we need to look at, if perhaps what we need to do is look at, other ways of enhancing usage over there with youth, and that would entail quite a bit more renovations than just doing the AC. And so we would do that kind of all at once.
Right,
like-
and we're gonna discuss this at Parks and Rec, and it's fine to do it now. But we also looked at a possibility of, with the after-school program that we've run for years, having a permanent location and trying to possibly move it over to the Duran Youth Center. There are a lot of challenges with that. We're looking into and trying to explore any option to better utilize that facility.
I think
Ms. Brooks and I are right there in this ward, and this is the first we're hearing about some of this.
Well, I
so-
Well,
think-
that's why we're waiting to bring it up.
Well,
And I
that's why
think-
you need to
I
come to
think-
those events,
I
so you
think
can
that
see.
part of the
Everything we've heard is
problem
positive.
is located in a neighborhood that is a lot of older senior citizens and older people, so there's not a lot of youth in the neighborhood, so. Back when we were
Well,
in
I
there,
drove my bike
Charlie, it
also,
was
but,
like, everybody went there and played foosball and ping pong and
Tennis
played
and
tennis and basketball, so. Anyway, I think this is more of a committee business for your Parks and Rec committee, so I think that
But you're invited.
He said by candlelight. You played that by candlelight.
Anyway, but yeah, we're just at the beginning stages of, but I do think we need
Tennis
to,
rackets were stone, too. It
yeah,
built
well, we do need to think through it and be wise and be
You never heard anything.
responsible. All right. Anything else?
I'll leave on a positive note
I
on
move-
the parks thing, because if you have not taken a 4-year-old to the splash pad recently, grandmas are so glad that you 20-year-olds are having these babies. But it was a blast. I had a 4-year-old out there and absolutely had a blast. So I encourage you to go enjoy a day with a grandbaby if you have one, or a great-grand, which is mine actually is, and take their kids there. They enjoyed it, and it was very well. The kids were well behaved. I can't talk about the parents, but the children were well behaved and having a blast.
I will say it has been opening it up free to the public. We went from a splash pad that had very little attendance to now it is highly utilized, which is the purpose of it. So
Exactly.
thank you for bringing that up.
All right, I move we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a
Hey, we're gone.
Yeah.
You know what? Hey, I had to talk about the splash pad, did I not?
To be honest with you,
Hey, I had to have you taken your little one to the splash pad?
I've gotten about the first little
Well, this is the second time he's gone, but last like it was a year ago. But he couldn't quit running. I kept thinking, okay, he did have on his water.
You just go sit down and let them do their thing.
I did, but you know what? I think I'm gonna sit closer to the
least we
gate,
got a little more
so no, they
information.
doesn't accidentally run out. Cause I couldn't find him sometimes. He was behind the thing trying to go.